So, you might find yourself wondering, what happened at UFC Fight Night Royval versus Taira, aka Vegas 98? A lot happened. So, I did predictions beforehand. If you didn't see that video, I'll put it right here. I just went through all the fights. I made my predictions. Some of them had reasons, some of them didn't. A lot of the time I picked people based on their names and how they sounded, what their country was from, because this was a pretty rough card to be picking for, admittedly. So I have some notes here. So I just want to go through all the fights from start to finish, break them all down for you guys, and give you some of my thoughts on what happened, why it happened, and who looks good, who looks bad, who might have won and looked bad, and who might have lost and looked good. So I'm going to start right at the beginning with Rocha versus Carpenter. So Clayton Carpenter beat Rocha. He put him to sleep with 2 minutes and, just over 2.5 minutes left in the second round. I had picked Rocha or Hocha, however you say his name, because I didn't trust a guy named Clayton, and I didn't trust an American to beat a Brazilian. So Carpenter looked really good on the feet. He had great combinations. Hocha almost caught him with a head kick and a knee at one point early in the first round, but Carpenter then took him down and easily held him for the rest of the round, opening him up and winning that round easily at 10-9. Round 2 came around. I was pretty surprised it made it here. It looked like Hocha was going to get finished toward the end of the first. He didn't, but Carpenter kind of got caught by a flying knee early, and then it might have rocked him, but Carpenter just came out and did another Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira flying spear Roman Reigns thing, and just ground and pounded the ever-living shit out of him. So Carpenter wins. He looked good. He looked sharp on the feet. He looked great in the takedowns. I don't think Rocha looked great. He was defenseless on the ground, got beaten to a pulp both times he went there, and didn't look great on the feet either. So next, Cody Haddon versus Dan Argueta. I picked Dan Argueta because he has a dope mustache, by the way. That's in my notes. Before the fight, I said he had a dope mustache. So round 1, Argueta got an early takedown. Haddon got himself to the cage, and they got into missionary. Haddon found his way to his feet within 30 seconds, and he had great technique getting there. It was kind of an action-packed round. They threw back and forth, but Haddon kept giving his back to Argueta like over and over and over, and I had picked Argueta, and it was still pissing me off. But Argueta looked horrible on the feet. I mean, just dull, bad. So basically, if they stayed on the feet, I knew that Argueta was going to lose. And then Haddon got bloodied by an elbow, I believe, toward the start of the second round. I looked away and didn't want to miss anything else, so I didn't go back, but I think I saw it at the end of the fight. Argueta got taken down, got back up quickly, and reversed the position. But then he loses the position by trying to slam him, and immediately gets pieced up by Haddon, and then got caught with a flying knee while crotch sniffing, as I like to call it. And then I had it 2-0 Haddon, and then Haddon got the UD. The commentary at the very end of the fight, I just need to take a second. I have a problem with this. Get real close. Come here. A commentary said, quote, "No idea where to put that fight." And I think it was Michael Bisping, so I'll give him a pass because he has one eye. But other than that, I don't know what to say. That was unbelievably stupid. Just Argueta actually failed 20 takedowns and got outstruck like 4-1. I have no idea what the fuck they were talking about. But great sportsmanship by both guys. They're both warriors. Haddon was really cool after the fight. He said, "I'm not going to have a boring fight. The moment I have a boring fight, Dana cut me." Hold him to it. I like the guy, but hold him to it, right? I mean, that's our big problem in MMA right now, is fights are boring. People like Bilal are winning. By the way, Bilal versus Shavkat got announced today, and so did Pantoja versus Asakura. I'm going to talk about that In a different video, I'm going to be covering Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria, and I'll talk briefly on that somewhere in that video. I just want you guys to be on the lookout for that. I want that to come out this weekend. It's about 10:30 Eastern time right now as I record this. It's after the fight, so yeah. So, and then between fights, before Pilastre McKenna, I realized how embarrassingly low energy the Apex is and how we need to get rid of it. And I'm so sick of watching fight cards in the Apex, because between fights, when they don't play a graphic, normally you get to see the crowd, they pan and see the crowd. It was so boring. You're looking at like 11 people, you know they're all related to the fighters, and nobody's saying anything. It's dead silent in there. I'm fed up. Stop putting cards in the fucking Apex. Anyway, Pilastre versus McKenna. I picked McKenna because McKenna's first name is Corey, and that's a man's name. What I didn't do, and what I should have done, was actually pick the one who looks more like a man. I picked the one who had a man's name. So I messed up. Pilastre did look more like a man. And Pilastre basically just shit all over McKenna the whole time. But, I mean, McKenna tried to take Pilastre to the cage and take her down. It didn't work. It was basically a snooze fest, but McKenna was winning some of the exchanges on the feet early, but Pilastre was the one moving forward, and Pilastre took it with a surge of late knees, control, and elbows. Clinch was basically her bread and butter all fight, and good for her, right? So, let's see. Flying knees by Pilastre. I thought that McKenna was going to get knocked out early in that round. And it honestly, Pilastre looked like she shouldn't have been in the cage with McKenna. She looked like she should have been fighting somebody who actually knew how to fight. So that was interesting. I thought that that was maybe a problem. Maybe they accidentally grabbed a high schooler to fight Julia Pilastre, but maybe not. McKenna did put in some work to the end of the second round, and it didn't matter. And then Pilastre was getting hit a lot, but it didn't matter. McKenna's boxing looked crisp, but she couldn't hurt Pilastre for the life of her. And it was 30-27 Pilastre. I had it. I said I could see 29-28 maybe. And then Sal D'Amato called it 29-28 McKenna. I didn't think McKenna won a round, and neither did the rest of America. And this is the first time I'm going to mention Sal D'Amato needing his credentials revoked, but it happened 2 more times where he called the fight for the loser. Not gave the loser like one round where it was a clear 30-27 and he said it was 29-28. No, he gave the loser, the person who got their ass whipped, a 29-28 scorecard in favor of them. So he's an idiot, and that didn't matter in the next fight. Sean Sheriff versus Junior Tafa. They were just throwing like crazy. I will say, for a light heavyweight, as the commentary team pointed out, Junior Tafa looked like a fat heavyweight. I don't know if anybody else noticed this. He looked like he had maple syrup running through his veins. He looked bad. I mean, he was the crisper boxer. He was, fighting a better fight. But that doesn't really mean anything to me. He looked like he would get knocked out by any heavyweight with half a brain that's ever heard of cardio. Tafa actually almost died at the end of the first round. Pardon me. He got on bottom and just kind of gave up, which was annoying to see because I had picked him. I picked him against Fatso, but still, yeah. So I thought that was weird, but he had, and then in the second round, Tafa had Sharif hurt bad, and he couldn't figure out how to keep throwing strikes. The cardio was so bad that it was actually embarrassing to watch. I think I tweeted that. Go follow me on Twitter at Fridge Door MMA. And then, because refrigerator didn't fit in the title, in the little box where you put the @ it's my name, but it's not my handle. Nico Price versus Garimbo. Nico's just too slow. I picked Garimbo because Nico is a tortoise, and so he looked a little too slow, and he just didn't look quite as strong as Garimbo did. Maybe The Rock needs to buy Nico Price a house. I don't know. But yeah, so Garimbo opened up Nico Price toward the end of the second round, had him bleeding, and then he had a dominant round 3 and took the fight 30-27. There's nothing really to talk about in this one. It just looked like Nico Price was outclassed. Same with the next fight. Pat Sabatini, who I did pick because I got his name wrong in the predictions video. I felt bad, so I picked him. He finished Jonathan Pierce via rear naked choke 4 minutes into the first round. I don't think I picked a method of victory for him. Probably decision. I just guessed because I didn't really want to even pick him. I was going to pick Jonathan Pierce, but I got Pat Sabatini's name wrong, so dumb luck. Ramazan Temirov versus CJ Vergara. Temirov looked really good. He won by TKO 2 minutes and 50 seconds into the fight. He had a crazy body shot that ended it. I love when people get people hurt to the head and they're just covering up like this and they just rip to the body. It works like every time. Like I don't know why people don't do that more often. So, but that was another fight, kind of the third in a row, where it just looked like one of the guys was outclassed by the other. So the main card, Daniel Rodriguez versus Alex Morono. Daniel Rodriguez won via split decision. I had picked him because I liked the way he looked in the Gastelum fight. I was really impressed by him. I didn't know a lot about him going into that fight, admittedly, but I liked the way he looked in that fight, so I picked him. We got to talk about Sal D'Amato again. He gave this one to Morono. I think 29-28. Okay. Alex Morono won the first round pretty clearly, I think. Every moment after the first round, it was so painfully obvious that Alex Morono had no chance because Daniel Rodriguez pieced him up for 10 straight minutes after the first round ended. And Sal D'Amato gave him the win. I just don't get it. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. Anyway, we move on. Grant Dawson defeated Rafa Garcia via TKO, a minute and 42 seconds in round 1. I had him via rear naked choke submission, but he just looked better than Rafa Garcia. He just kind of beat the shit out of him. He could have had the rear naked choke, which pissed me off because he had his back, but instead he left him in a puddle of his own blood on the canvas. I was kind of mad about that, but good for him. You know what I mean? It's a more entertaining way to win. I just wanted to be right on my pick, but I just didn't have him via rear naked choke. Chidi Njokuani versus versus Jared Gooden. He defeated Jared Gooden via unanimous decision. I don't remember who I even picked, but Chidi did great work against the cage all fight. I have a note about that. But I'm kind of surprised he didn't let things open up in space more. I know it was the small cage, and so you kind of end up next to the cage a lot more often because if somebody backs up for more than 2 steps, they're against the cage, and you're just clinching, and before you know it, you're having you're making love to a man. But I thought that he looked great in the exchanges in the open cage. So yeah, I was surprised I didn't see more of that, but he won 30-27, so he didn't, whatever he did worked, so good for him. Jung Young Park versus Brad Tavares via split decision. I didn't think that Brad Tavares won this fight. I thought Jung Young Park won. I think the judges probably got it right. I think Jung Young Park got dropped at the very beginning of the fight, and so that's really the only reason he lost a round. He was a little shook after it, I think, is what happened. I missed that also. Every time I look away, something cool happens. I looked away twice when Royval slipped, and I thought he got knocked down. So yeah, Brad Tavares was not due. I picked Brad Tavares by, I don't even remember, probably didn't say, because I thought he was due. I used a football analogy, American football. But I did admit in that it's probably not a real thing, and I was right. So good win for Jung Young Park. What's his nickname? I don't know, the Flying Turtle or some shit. The main event, Royval versus Taira. I picked Brandon Royval via first round KO It looked like at times in the third and fifth maybe that he would get a finish of one type or another. He didn't, but he did win. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. I picked Royval because he's just better. I watched him versus Pantoja, and I wasn't super impressed with his takedown defense in that fight. He got laid on for like 20 minutes. But I did say I hope he was training specifics. I hope that he was prepared for the threat of the takedown. I have a ton of notes on specific things that happened in the fight. I gave 1, 3, and 5 to Royval, and 2 and 4, Taira just took his back. I have like no notes for those rounds because Taira just took his back and then sat there and did nothing. And so the one thing that I note for both of those rounds is, since, at what point does back control, like taking somebody's back and holding control there, mean less? Because taking somebody's back is the most dominant grappling position probably in MMA outside of having any other limb submission lockdown, right? So you take somebody's back, and if you're a submission artist, like people are saying Taira is, you should be able to choke him out pretty quickly, or at least present that threat in a way that makes him do something stupid that gives up something else that allows a transition to maybe even a more dominant position like full mount, and you just rain down fire on him, right? No, he didn't do that. He just had the body triangle locked in, and Royval decided it wasn't worth it to gas out trying to get out, and he'd just fight hands all around. And so that's what he did. I think that maybe in this whole damage thing or threat of a submission thing, we need to clear some things up, because holding somebody down all around gives you a win, but you do no damage. Maybe we get rid of the 10-point must system altogether. Or maybe, I don't know, can you even score a 10-10? But Royval in the stand-up looked like he was on another level, which is what I was hoping for. He just looked like Taira's worst nightmare. He was snapping his head back all the time. He was catching him with clean 1-2s, 1-2-3s, you name it, right? Throughout all the numbers, he was catching him with it. I think the only thing he didn't catch him with was a huge overhand, but he was throwing uppercuts up the middle. I thought that maybe he landed a couple illegal knees, but I guess Taira's knee wasn't down. I thought it was. And I also didn't realize that the rule had changed on the 1st of October, I think. I thought it was the 1st of November, because I remember thinking that John Jones, they were changing it for John Jones. But just because they change everything for John Jones. So yeah, I had Brandon Royval 48-47. I thought his takedown defense looked really solid, honestly. The volume of takedowns that Taira was going for, and all the credit in the world to him. He's a phenomenal fighter. He's a great grappler. He's a dominant grappler. I mean, some of the things he was doing to keep Royval's back at times were crazy. Royval was throwing out scrambles. I mean, I made it seem like he wasn't, but he was. He was trying to get up, but he just made it impossible for Royval to get up. He was just too good, too skilled, and I think he's a good striker. I just think Royval's on a different level. Royval ended with a mounted guillotine and then a body triangle going for a rear naked choke. It was picture perfect as somebody who picked Royval. Like I said, though, he did win via split decision. And I might have said unanimous, but I meant split. But I should have been able to say unanimous, because Sal fucking D'Amato again. Right? He gave the fight 48-47 to Tatsuro Taira. Why? How? How can you do that? How can you possibly give that fight to him? I understand, I guess, if you think that the minute of grappling after 3.5 or 4 minutes of Royval snapping Taira's head back while striking, standing up, gives Taira the round. But Sal D'Amato 3 times tonight was the only judge who gave a winning scorecard to a losing fighter. He consistently does that. Every single time he's on a card, he gives a winning scorecard to a losing fighter. Like, without fail, I knew for a fact that they were going to give one round to Taira that Royval won because it was Sal D'Amato. I shouldn't be able to do that. We need to take this man's credentials. We need to check his betting accounts. Something. Because something's not right. Check his family's betting accounts. Something is not right with Sal D'Amato. And I don't know what it is, but I need it to stop. It's going to drive me crazy. I swear to God. So, with that said, I'm going to be putting out a video on Ilia and Max soon, and I'll be talking about the UFC 310 announcements, what that card's shaping up to look like. Could be a cuddle fest for the last 50 minutes of fight time, just so everybody's aware. I know that you don't want to think that Shavkat's going to get ragdolled, but we didn't want to think Leon was going to get ragdolled. And Asakura could just get laid on by Pantoja for 25 minutes. We don't know. Brandon Royval looked really, really good tonight and got laid on for 25 minutes by Pantoja. So, with that said, everybody, drop a like if you enjoyed this. If you stayed all this time, I appreciate you because we're about 20 minutes in. This is a longer video. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment. Let me know what you think on the fight. Maybe you agree with Sal D'Amato. Maybe you need your credentials taken too. So let me know in the comments, and have a good night. Peace.